Welcome to Asante Family Adventures. Welcome, family. This is Asa, and I'm here with Mrs. A.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome back. We're glad to have you here today. So, guys, today we wanted to come on quickly and discuss some hot topics that we have been hearing through the grapevine, as they say.
In the streets.
Yeah, in the street. The word on the street is. And we want to debunk some myths that we have heard.
Demystify.
Yeah, demystify.
Set that record straight.
Set the record straight from our perspective as having been traveling and living in the continent over the last 20 to 25 years. So the first myth that we would like to discuss and debunk is, do the native Africans in the continent of Africa like expats that come over to live in the continent?
Well, that's a good question. I want to start with making sure we deal with what a myth is. Because a lot of times in this current easy transfer of information that may be correct but far from complete and lacking context, myths are easy to build up and build up steam. We have myths that exist right now that are several thousands of years old. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years old. Mm-hmm. There are myths that still hold to today in a way that almost makes you feel like it's based in actuality, reality, or facts. Mm-hmm. But myths, that is their job. Their job is to misinform, mislead, sometimes sound like a fact or a reality or a truth, but be far from it. Mm-hmm. So when we're dealing with myths, it's kind of hard because they're easy to attach to people, especially when you're dealing with people who faced a lot of trauma and a lot of hurt as people of African descent, those born in the continent of Africa and those in the diaspora. I remind our listeners as well, the African Union has decided that the Africans that are born outside of the beautiful continent of Africa are Africans. Yes. We are considered the 6th district of Africans. We are considered the African diaspora. So there are documented international treaties that acknowledge us as that. So to get into that first thing, do they like us? Do they want us? We have 54 countries that have already done the treaties and made that a part of the African Union bylaw that we are the 6th district of Africans and have acknowledged us. And this is why you're getting countries like Burkina Faso and Benin and Gabon and Senegal, and just the list goes on and on, that are throwing out open arms for us and asking for us and even apologizing for things that they have done, possibly at a small level within the slave trade or within other things that have happened, which is what is commonly known as the Ma'afa or the Middle Passage or the slave trade. Yes. And keeping in mind their participation is quite minor. Yes. Okay, so after giving that introduction, to get to the point of whether or not they like us, the answer to that is just like what we're used to in the diaspora. If you're from the east side of the United States and I'm on the west side, there are people, black folks, who don't like other black folks who are on the west side of the United States, as an example. And they're very much 100% black, 100% African melanated people, but they do not like each other. So you come here to the beautiful continent of Africa, there are some black folks who are the indigenous born Africans who don't like you. They don't have to, and you should be used to it. Yes. I mean, we got black folks in your own families that don't like each other. In our own city. And people in Brooklyn don't want nothing to do with nobody from the Bronx. There's people in East Atlanta that don't want nothing to do with people in SWATs. And they're the exact same black folks. So it's out of context. Often it's taken, here are a few people, which you'll get everywhere. There are Europeans that do not want to see Euro-Americans, Americans who are what we call white Americans, who are from Europe. They don't want to see them in Europe. That is normal to have a certain segment of people who don't want to see you. Yeah. That's nothing new. But the overwhelming majority of people of African descent, the indigenous Africans in the beautiful continent of Africa, they want to see us. Yep. They want to interact with us. They love the things that we've done with the African culture in the Americas and in the diaspora.
Yes.
Understand, the reason they like it because they hear the beat of the drum. They hear the harp in it. They hear the flute playing in it. They hear those different sounds that we make. So they enjoy the music, the art,
Yes.
the science, the math, the way we put things back out because it reminds them of home. And there's a lot of excitement, honest,
Pride.
100% excitement of some of them to see us and to greet us. So do you have a few? They are the few, right? But you don't focus on that few. You look at this large group. You have Nelson Mandela, since we're here in South Africa, open arms consistently with black people from the diaspora, Africans from the diaspora. The ANC, consistent. There's open arms if you're looking for it. But if you're looking for 100% of the people to open their arms and make you feel 100% accepted, then you're coming to the wrong place. You may need to work on some things yourself first. Because often when we're dealing with trauma, and we are as a people, those indigenous Africans born on the beautiful continent and those in the diaspora, we have different traumas from one of the worst evils the world have ever known called colonization. People forget that in order to kidnap and take tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of people from the African continent around the world, you have to colonize that place first. So colonization kicked off here in Africa first, and it had horrible implications. They speak English in South Africa, not because they want to, but because that was forced upon them. We speak English in America, not because we want to, but via colonization that was forced upon them. And so we forget this because the trauma is so long, so deep, and so ubiquitous. It's in everything until it almost becomes a natural part of your life. But that trauma affects us. So when you have two groups who are of the same tribe, same family, who are dealing with slightly different traumas of colonization. People forget America was a colony, the 13 colonies, and then those thieves decided that they would not keep up to the agreement that they made with Europe about stealing and colonizing and saying, hey, we made so much money they became their own nation. But it started as a colony. And so because of these different traumas that we're affected by, now you have two different trauma groups trying to deal and learn from each other and interact with each other. And that's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be easy. But hopefully the best of us, the wiser of us, will meet each other and learn how to become one again. And that is important, a part of this reclamation, a part of this renaissance, a part of the redemptive process for us. We have to learn that and work that out for ourselves. So to answer the question, yes, there are a small population that don't want to see you. But I can go to America and find that same population. I go back to Mississippi. There's some black folks that don't want to see me come in, have this amount of love for me when they see me. And then there are other people who are open arms and they like, we miss you and everything else. And the same thing you get here. So as long as we're working on ourselves, building from the best of ourselves. And here's another thing, just as a second note to that, to get a little bit deeper in it.
Okay.
Often people who deal with trauma, it is much easier to point fingers at each other.
Yeah.
Every group around the world, no matter who they are. If you go into the Nazis, right, and the I believe that was the Second Reich with Hitler, there were people who were of European descent who called themselves Jews who were a part of the Reich, who helped with the concentration camps, who turned over other Jewish people. This is just a historical fact. So yes, you do have Africans who assisted those colonizers, those kidnappers.
Into our second myth.
Okay then, all right.
Yes,
Okay,
slow
go ahead.
down, slow
I'm
down.
sorry, I get a little
He got
excited.
excited and all hype. He was just moving on.
Okay.
So to wrap up the first question, you wrap that up.
I hope I did.
Don't expect everybody to like you. This not,
It's not what you're coming for.
This not what you're coming for. Like yourself, and then those that are for you, you will meet along the way.
Absolutely.
Okay. So our second myth, which you were about to get on, look, the preacher get to going and he just go, right? So the colonization myth that goes and comes, you know, it goes away, then it comes back. You know, every time we start trying to push forward and expand ourselves and reclaim our narrative and our story and getting back to who and what we are, you know, there always has to be some salt sprinkled in the game. So the second myth about the colonization, formulate it for me. What is the overall myth that people like to put out there? We were discussing this the other day.
Well, there's one myth about that we've heard for hundreds of years now.
Mm-hmm.
There's an African king that sold black people into slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that is a myth. When you ask for the proof, the citations, the documentation,
mm-hmm.
the treaty, the exchange of money,
mm-hmm.
you can't find it
mm-hmm.
because there never was, first of all, there was never one king over all of the continent of Africa during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just did not exist. That's
mm-hmm.
number one. Number two, understand something. When you say slave trade, that means something was traded for,
mm-hmm.
and one party became richer because of.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, we can clearly see how Europe became wealthy off of the slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
We can clearly see how the Americas became wealthy off of the slave trade, as they call it,
mm-hmm.
which was basically taking humans' bodies and treating them in the worst crimes against humanity the world has ever seen, and just doing some of the most evil, sadistic things we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. We can see where they made money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why is the continent of Africa not showing that same wealth exchange? Because if they were a part of that actual exchange, they were not. There were small tribes. As I said before earlier, you'll get always some of your own that will participate with opposition forces. That's just a part of it. Mm-hmm. You have some people in different wars who, the word Benedict Arnold in English deals with a guy in the United States who betrayed the U.S. government. You will always get that. Mm-hmm. But still, by and large, what was happening is this was a conquering process. When you come to see what they call the forts or the slave forts that's along the beaches in Africa, a fort, my brothers and sisters, is a military installation. It is not a peacekeeping thing. They came by way of force. They took the land. They took whomever they wanted. Those who they couldn't take immediately, they did fake agreements with until they got enough military control in the land, and then they enslaved them too, which is why you have areas in the United States and around the diaspora called Kingston, because kings were enslaved. They were brought into the diaspora. That's called Princeton, because there were princes who were brought out of Africa. Not everywhere that's called Kingston or Princeton is that the case, but there are some documented places that's the case. Mm-hmm. They did that to the people in the Americas. They attempted and did enslave some of the Americans, and some of the local Americans did help, or native or indigenous people of the land that's now called America. Mm-hmm. So you do have this crazy myth that is out of context, that does not have its citations about this one African king or these group of kings that did it. It didn't exist. They have been fighting for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years, because the Romans and the Greeks were ones that came in and also were doing kidnapping and enslaving and things of this nature. Mm-hmm. So often when you're promoting that, you're promoting extremely small group that did that for an extremely short period of time. Mm-hmm. The continent did not benefit from the slave trade, mm-hmm. period. Those who benefited, you can easily follow the money. Just follow the money, you'll easily see who benefited. So that's a big myth. There's also, but at the same point in time, now here's what's funny. When you come to the beautiful continent of Africa, you'll find out that the history books are not printed often in Africa. Mm-hmm. The history books are printed generally in Europe, yeah. or they're printed by very few printing presses in the continent of Africa, mm-hmm. that are controlled by European forces. Mm-hmm. And so therefore you get the history books that were teaching to the people of African descent who are indigenous to Africa, the indigenous born Africans. I've seen the books myself, that they were taught that we were in the Americas wearing three-piece suits on the plantation, and the only thing we were doing was just serving tea. Literally, this is what they were taught. We were having a good time and enjoying ourselves. We were on the front porch with a banjo and a violin in a three-piece suit, playing music and just enjoying ourselves, while the indigenous African was being tortured and his land being taken and his culture being ripped apart. And this is what the history they were receiving by the same forces that were in America, telling us that we were not interested at all of what was going on in Africa. So what happened is, unfortunately, the same forces that gave the misinformation about us to the indigenous Africans gave misinformation that still exists today to us about the indigenous Africans. So you have people that are using misinformation, information that's out of context, or that's blown up out of context, that's giving these improper stories. I've heard things like, oh, well, the Africans of the diaspora come back and y'all are like another wave of colonizers.
Yeah.
I've heard that myth.
Yeah.
Now, are there black folks that have said that? Ignorance? Yes. Just like there are black folks in America that have said about indigenous Africans who come to America, go back to Africa. So you get dumb and dumber everywhere.
And it's also that indigenous that repatriate that comes back with the European mindset and attitude, and they do treat the indigenous people in the continent like a European would.
That's true.
Because that's, the little European on the inside.
Yeah, a colonizing spirit on the inside. But guess what?
Right.
If you follow that same person back to America, they were probably treating black folks like a European would there.
Exactly.
Right? They didn't care really about it, really didn't like us too much, didn't want much to do with their culture, so you do end up with that.
Yeah, and they come over here, want to treat people any kind of way, talk to them any kind of way, not respecting their culture or their language. And
that's a part of colonization.
Yes.
The part of colonization is to get you out of your right frame of mind and get you acting like someone else. And it does that. It does that to Africans born in the diaspora and Africans born on the beautiful continent of Africa.
Yes.
And so to add to that, the idea of, I've heard one of the myths, oh yeah, there were black people who came to Liberia or Sierra Leone and were colonizing the area. I can only explain it to you like this. There's a big myth in America, as a side note or an attachment to it. There's a big myth in America that talks about black people who owned plantations and enslaved groups of people. First of all, the very few that did that, and there was a few, and extremely few, they had a European person that they put to the front that was acting as the owner, because by law, it was illegal for black folks to own land. We were the property. In the whole United States, the law of the land was a black person was the property. Did you have few here and there that exercised a little bit of freedom or said they were free? Yes. But the movie 12 Years a Slave will show you that the institution didn't have any problem with stripping that from you and putting you back in bondage. So again, it's out of context. So what happens is when you start talking about places like Liberia and Sierra Leone, they were colonized and created specifically by European colonizers, criminal colonizers. They created those lands specifically, not created the land, created those names. Liberia is a word that means liberation. It is a Latin word. It is not an indigenous African name. Sierra Leone is Latin, the Great Mountains, right? It is the Mountains of Leon. These are Latin or European names and titles that were colonized by them. So one of the worst things we do to each other is we call each other horrible names. I like one of our elders said, you can't be a nigger and be a king all at the same time. We're going to be one or the other. And I do understand when people say, well, we want to take the word nigger back to niggas and all of that. If the issue is you're not living the Amharic or the Ethiopian lifestyle to want to just claim that one word and pull it out of context. If you're going to live this, live it. but we can't be both at the same time. I don't see the Japanese calling themselves samurai and Jap all at the same time. I don't see the Chinese calling each other sensei and chink at the same time. We have to grow up. And as we grow up, we're going to pick one or the other. So therefore, you have this idea, this colonizing, that black folks were colonizers. We did not have, that is a system. That is a global, country to country, nation to nation, continent to continent system. There are no people of African descent that did that. Meanwhile, we have our princess on the other side, folks, that's trying to get the camera. And so we're going to continue with our thing, but this is what it's about. Yes. Come here just a moment. Come here, come over here. So in completing the idea of the colonization myth, we have to deal with certain things. And remember, myths are very strong. They're very pervasive. They can have 20% truth to it and wrap itself with a beautiful 80% of lies and pass itself off. So some people are going to accept what we're saying and some are not, because the myth is that hard. But what I keep expressing to people, before we worry about the black people in America that enslaved people, let's worry about those people of European descent. Let's get that. That's the 99 percentile. Before we worry about the few people of African diasporan descent that may have come into the continent and done some colonization-like things, let's focus on the ones that actually did the colonizing, and that's the 99 percentile that we need to get to. Because we get to focusing on the small, as they say in the black neighborhood in America, we learn how to major in the minor. And instead of focusing on, let's get that major under control. So 99% of what we're dealing with are unfortunately outside forces and outside sources that this is happening. And as we focus on that and learn where we're common, where we can build and connect with each other, we become much stronger. I'm gonna say this again, as India rises, the Indians' worth and respect worldwide increases. As China rises, the Chinese respect and influence worldwide rises. This is what will happen as we continue to grow and help and become part of the growth of the beautiful continent of Africa. And we separate and set the minor to the side and realize that we are each other's best option for growing and for growth. And both sides, whether you find out it was during the Black Panthers and the Civil Rights Movement to the Apartheid Movement, each group did some things to assist each other. It's not talked about by other groups because we have to teach each other our own story. And we're going to grow and we're going to continue to do that. And for those who are ready for that path, this is not for everyone.
No, it's not.
This is not for everyone. Some people want to stay where they are and how they are. But for those of you who want to grow, who want to build that legacy, because it is legacy time, that's what we're talking to while we're confronting these myths.
Ashe. And it's time to do the work and, not get caught up in the he say, she say. Focus on the what needs to be said and what needs to be focused on so that we can all move forward together as one.
And I love to tell people, when people say these things, always ask to prove it. Just say, hey, no problem. I hear you, brother or sister. Prove it. Let's get some documentation. Let's run beyond the internet with it, right? Let's get that. Nothing wrong with that, but let's get past that. Let's see if we can get some historical accounts from it. Let's see if we can fly there, as I have these areas that I'm telling you about, and then go into their record vaults and see if that's the case, if that pans out. Let's talk to their elders and their ancient griots and jeles who keep that information and see if that pans out. And 99.9% of the time, I find there's some very specific information missed out. It's out of context. It's been blown and skewed. But what should we expect by things and powers and forces that do crimes against humanity, that kill people, that enslave people, that take lands? We were really expecting that they would give us historical accounts that were really accurate. We have to mature past that mentality. We have, and we will continue to. So definitely, it's legacy time, family.
Ashe. Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you. Until the next video, please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please click that notification bell so that you can get notifications of our upcoming videos. See you later.
Onward and upward, backwards never.
Never.
Right? So
forward forever.
wait. Onward and upward, Forward ever, backward never, right? That's how I roll right there, family. Y'all right here with us, right? Yeah, onward ever, onward,
Upward.
onward and upward. Forward ever, backwards never.
Yes.
And just remember, Africa is for Africans, at home and abroad. Africa must be provided for, protected, and free. Okay, Africa must be free from Cape Town to Cairo and beyond the seas. Peace, family.